The following is intended for mature audiences only. Discretion is advised.
What's up, besties? Welcome back to another episode of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes, and I am still the second part of that title. This is episode 8. 8 episodes, man. Holy cow. You just turn that over to the side, and that's just infinity. Before we get the show started, I wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to be at a comedy show called One Night Stand. It's going to be at the Roots Kava Bar in Miami, and that's going to be on Thursday, July 25th. If you're listening to this on release day, that's going to be next Thursday. It's a comedy show that's basically a play on the dating game, and there's going to be a lot of characters, and there's going to be stand-up as well. It's hosted by Abe Perez and Reggie, who was on episode 3 of Childlike at Best. You can go ahead and listen to that if you haven't already. It's amazing. This episode is Elaine Golden. I absolutely love Elaine. She is so great. She's a hilarious stand-up comedian, and she actually moved over to Chicago for the time being, but thankfully we were able to get an interview with her, and I'm really grateful to her for allowing me to interview her. She's really fun, and I really think that you guys are going to enjoy this episode. So without further ado, Elaine Golden.
School. I was in 5th grade, and the first season of American Idol had just come out.
Oh no.
And
I know where this is headed.
My family got I don't know. Wait a minute. My family got we went to the after Kelly Clarkson had won.
Yeah.
We went to the top 10 concert at the big performing arts center near us.
Yeah.
So I went. I was really excited about it. I got to see all of them. I got a glow stick that was like American Idol. So it was like,
oh no.
And it wasn't even like it was the first one, you know. So it just said American Idol, not like the Great American Idol. Like
yeah.
But when I went to school the next day, nobody believed me that I went to the concert. Like, I wasn't cool enough to see the top 10 American Idol contestants.
You weren't cool enough to pay for a ticket to go see them?
I just don't, or I wasn't cool enough to stay out that late. I don't know. I even showed them the glow stick, and they still wouldn't believe me. Like, it said American Idol. I had the proof of it.
Oh, my gosh. That's really funny.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, we started, so hey, everybody. This is Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes. Hey, guys, guess what? I'm Mike Valdes. And today I have a really special guest with me, stand-up comedian and just all-around great person, Elaine Golden. How are you, Elaine?
I'm great. So excited to be here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm glad. Thank you for doing this. The first thing I like to do before we get started, before we do anything at Childlike at Best, is we like to take a Flintstones vitamin. So I have these Flintstone Complete Gummies.
Oh, nice.
And you can go ahead and take one for me. That would be great.
Okay, great. I got you.
Yeah. You can also let the audience know what shape your gummy is.
Okay, I will. Let's see. These are different. Wow. Okay, this one seems to be... I should know these characters. It's like the child from the Flintstones.
It's Pebbles.
It's Pebbles. So
yeah.
These are both Pebbles. I have always liked the cherry is my favorite flavor. I know they come... historically, I remember it's like cherry, orange, and grape.
Yeah.
I always took the cherry. I'll give you the orange.
Okay, cool. As you're taking this, can you please tell me about where you grew up?
I mean, okay, I'll do my best. I grew up in South Florida between... Fort Lauderdale and Miami. Very much suburbia. Yeah. And yeah, not too far from here actually. We're in my home turf.
Yeah, and what kind of school did you go to? Public, private?
I went to a public school. I went to it was a pretty good elementary school, but public school.
Yeah. Who were the kind of kids that you sat with at lunch?
Oh, I'd say I've always hung out with like the pretty nerdy kids.
Okay.
I had fun. No, I mean I was very much a nerd. Just even though they couldn't believe that I saw American Idol.
Yeah, I know. So, but nerd in what way? Like a D&D nerd, or like just you liked math?
Oh, I liked studying. I liked school. Yeah. I mean, elementary school was fun. I remember like they were really big on standardized tests, and they made us learn this song. And here in Florida, it's the FCAT. So I still remember the song they made us sing, and it sounds like propaganda, but I'm not a good singer, but this is the song they had everyone in my school sing as we geared up to take the standardized test, the FCAT. It was FCAT. It's a great big test we take. FCAT. The Hawks are on our way. We'll do the very best, so our parents and teachers will say, hooray, FCAT. It's a great big test. And it just looped. And
that is propaganda.
It is wild.
It's so much propaganda that the end of it doesn't rhyme.
Yeah.
So our parents could say, hooray.
Our parents and teachers could say hooray.
First of all, if your parent or teacher says hooray, stop going to that school or stop going home.
I remember seeing that though in our arts elective, our arts little program where we were coloring in things and painting.
Like in choir, they would teach you 4-part harmony on how to sing the FCAT theme song.
They made us sing a lot of songs. Like they made us when we graduated in 5th grade. That's not a graduation that needs celebrated. We sang they taught us the songs to I will fly on my parents' wings.
What?
Places. And then I remember I did do chorus when I was in elementary school, and I remember we sang the song Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog, but they adapted the words because I think the actual song is not has some adult themes.
Yeah, I've never heard that song.
I'm not a singer.
It's okay.
So I'm not going to sing any more songs.
Is it Jeremiah? He's a bullfrog. Yeah, he's a bullfrog. Ribbit, 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 hooray.
It's actually pretty good. It's, Jeremiah was a bullfrog, but was a good friend of mine. I never understood a single word he said, but I helped him drink his wine.
Okay.
Yes, he always had a mighty fine wine. And
they taught kids this song?
No, they changed the line to he was always a good friend of mine. There was no wine in our version.
There was no wine. It was just
grape juice.
He was just just grape juice. That's great. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't remember doing any of that when I was in high school. In fact, if any kid ever wanted to prove his love for the teacher or his parents, he would sing You Raised Me Up by Josh Groban. And that's the only thing. And every teacher thinks that song was written for them. And that's not the truth at all.
That's so funny.
But when you were in high school, what electives were you taking? Were you taking chorus and?
No, I don't sing. I did band. I was in
what did
band
you play
for 7 years. What do you want to guess one instrument and then I'll tell you?
I have no idea. I mean, I would guess the easy guess is clarinet.
I know. I didn't play clarinet. I played the trumpet.
For some strange reason, the first thing I thought, right when it could just be because it's a funny instrument, I immediately thought trombone. And it is a brass instrument, and you're seated next to each other, so it makes sense.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
No, I was a trumpet player. I wasn't very good though. I was very average.
To be fair, the best trumpet player is not that great. Because no one ever says, wow, you know what this band needs? A trumpet.
People generally like trumpets in there.
I guess if you're in Less Than Jake or whatever stupid ska band you're in, but that's about it.
Or a classical band. The trumpets usually have the melody. They play but I wasn't good. One time though, I switched schools because a new school opened up and they had a jazz band audition, and I wasn't very good, but I was like, let me do my best. I went in. They had music that you had to play, and then they also had an improvisation piece. And I struggled with the music you had to play, and I just wung the improv piece.
Yeah. Did you say, can I please get just a one-word suggestion? All right. And thank you.
No. But I will tell you, I ended up getting one of the top spots in the jazz band because
wow, first chair.
For sure. The music director thought when I was doing the piece where you were supposed to read the music, he thought I was improvising.
Oh.
With the sheet music.
It is.
I wasn't.
To be fair, it is jazz, and the whole thing is like predicated on mistakes. So it makes a lot of sense that he would think, wow, she's really good at jazz.
Yeah, it lasted about 3 weeks, and then I was knocked down to the bottom of the jazz band because they felt bad about kicking me out.
That's really funny. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Did he ever take drama or anything?
I didn't.
I find that hard to believe because not hard to believe, but it's just something where like it's something that you do now.
Yeah, you know? I mean, I've always been really goofy and silly, but I didn't really start performing until a couple of years ago.
Really?
Doing comedy.
Is it because of like stage fright or what? Why?
No, I've never been afraid. I've just always been a really busy person, and
Yeah.
I'd wanted to try stand up. Everyone's always like, I was always joking around when I was younger.
Sure.
So it's not like I wasn't providing entertainment. I just wasn't doing it on a stage.
Well, any person who's ever told the joke ever that's made somebody laugh for 2 seconds, even a complete stranger will go, "Oh my God, you should do stand up."
Yeah.
You know, just like if you ever sing a song at church and you're like a little bit better than a normal person, they're like, "You should be on American Idol." You know.
No, my parents actively told me to not sing. They asked me, please don't.
That's great.
Yeah, like I hope none of my family hears all of the songs I've sung in this podcast.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I think this is great. This is amazing.
I actually forgot about doing those until we've started talking about this. There was the Annie play, and I didn't get any speaking roles. I was only supposed to be in the chorus and then lay in a sleeping bag.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
I remember. Wow. Yeah.
You had to like pretend to clean and stuff.
Yeah, we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That was the scene. It was pretty good.
That's great. So when you would leave school, what are the first few things that you remember being like a fan of? Whether it be a book or a television show or movies or anything where you were just like, man, this is my thing.
When I was, I can't remember if it was elementary or middle school, I got a red Razor scooter, and I loved that thing.
Sure.
So I would go all around my neighborhood, even when I wasn't allowed to go out. If it was too late, I had a little back patio it was paved with cement. So I'd go in a circle on my own little back small patio area for hours. I loved that Razor scooter, and I liked like those toys a lot. Like I liked hopscotch, skip it, where even though it would hit your ankle and hurt really badly.
Skip it. Yeah. But the very best thing of all, there's a counter on this ball, so try to keep the very best score. Yeah, I remember all these commercials. I remember the commercial for Razor scooters as well. For 4 easy payments of $19.99, you could get the coolest thing on the face of the planet. And then, like, it would always have this guy jumping, and then it goes in a 360 formation, and he would land on it.
Yeah, I never did any of that. I also really liked the Rugrats, but when I was younger, my mom couldn't get me and my sister to pay attention to her when we were watching TV. So one day she went out and disconnected the cable.
Oh boy.
She said cable is done in our house. And I remember watching the screen fade to that staticky black. And my sister and I, we didn't really talk much because we just watched the TV together. We don't really get along that well. We didn't back then anyway. Yeah. We were watching it. It went all fuzzy in the middle of the episode. We start crying. Something's clearly very wrong. We ran to our mom, and we were like, "Mom, Rugrats is gone. Rugrats is gone." And she said, "I know. I cut the cable." She's like, "I'm sick of this. It's done. People are gonna start paying attention."
Oh no!
And I think. This whole experience is pretty indicative of my childhood because when my mom ended up canceling our cable for the rest of, I didn't have cable even now for the rest of my life. I haven't had cable since. Yeah. But when the cable company had her take an exit survey, they asked her what provider she'd be replacing them with, and she told them the public library.
That's great.
Yeah, and that she was right. She stuck to her word.
That's something that I find so interesting and different about you is that a lot of your pop culture knowledge is predicated on whether it was in the library or not.
Oh my
and
gosh.
that is so freaking funny to me.
Oh, wow. Actually, yes. I mean, we had the regular TV, with antenna TV, you still had all those, like, I still watch cartoons. I loved Arthur.
Yeah.
In the morning, I love to watch, even still now when Arthur comes on the TV, I watch it, and it just makes me, I enjoy it so much.
Sure,
that
absolutely.
Experience.
I do remember liking Arthur quite a bit. Arthur is also like a pretty popular library character as well, now that I think about it. Aren't there like a lot of Arthur books and stuff?
There are, but I had Arthur before my life was altered drastically by my mother's.
Man,
By my mother.
And that's crazy, man. Pretty much everything you would watch was like Civil War documentaries. Well, I mean, I'm sure like in like 2006, the library was like, I guess we'll put like season 1 and 2 of Curb Your Enthusiasm or whatever, but
Okay, don't knock the public library. They have so many great resources. There's a whole DVD section. I actually volunteered there in high school, and I helped sort things. It's got so many... Okay.
You know what's funny is you could have given me 2 guesses, and I would have gotten it on the first guess that you worked at the library.
It was hard though. It was 2 hours. It was a really long shift. I got really good at
It's a really long shift.
It felt so long.
Because you're at the library, Elaine.
No, because you had to remember which letters were next to each other all the time. That was a lot of pressure.
How do you not remember what letters are next?
No, because you'd get
Did
a
they
thing.
teach you a song as well? The ABCs?
Okay, Mike. Thanks
I'm
for the
kidding.
sass. No, it's because I did 4-hour shifts at the hospital near me. I worked at the front desk of a hospital, and those went by super quickly. I think it was because of the library. I was working alone, but I volunteered. I was in high school. I was also in a service club, the Key Club. Mm-hmm. So I helped. I helped actually when I changed schools. I started the new club.
Forgive my ignorance. What does the Key Club do?
It's a service organization. So
okay.
They're the high school version of Kiwanis, if you've heard of that or
yeah.
seen their signs on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's sponsored by Kiwanis Clubs help high schools start a Key Club. So I did. We don't make keys. We don't do any of that.
I mean, that was the dumb joke I could have made, but I was just like,
I saw it in your eyes, Mike. I saw it.
But I said I'd rather just be a better person and not make fun of it.
I still see in your eyes that you regret not saying it, though.
No, I don't regret not saying it. I don't.
Sure.
I really don't. I actually thought, not that you make keys, but I thought that it was like those clubs where you wear gloves and you like hold bells and you like make music. Doing those bell things. Remember those hand bells or whatever?
I do.
I thought that was the Key Club.
No, I never had any bells. One time in elementary school, I got chosen I was one of 20 students from my elementary school that got to leave elementary school to go to a Hispanic Heritage celebration. Wow. And there were flamenco dancers. Yeah. And I remember those like castañetas, I think they're called. Yeah. Castañetas, I don't know. Mm-hmm. So that was the closest I got to bells. It was very South Florida.
Yeah, it is very,
it was
very South Florida.
That big... it doesn't matter.
It does matter.
The location? Do you know that place off of 595?
Oh, wait, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
It's a huge venue. I've been there for so many things. Like
I thought you were going to give a detail about your life.
No.
That's why I was like, it completely matters. It's about you.
It didn't matter
not about
at all.
the location. Like, yeah, that you're right. That doesn't matter.
I mean, if I was a more outgoing young whippersnapper, it could have been the location of my first kiss. But I waited a long time for that.
Yeah, you waited till marriage.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh man, still waiting till marriage.
Still waiting till marriage.
You gotta wait till marriage before you kiss, or else it's naughty.
Yeah. That is very true. I remember that. Speaking of kissing, because it's naughty. Did you ever go to summer camp?
What? I did not know that's where you're heading. I thought you were going to go back to being in band.
No.
I did go to summer camp.
Is where all the summer flings happened.
I didn't go to sleepaway camp.
You didn't?
No, I went to the park next to my house.
Oh, okay.
Because it was the cheapest, and they would take both me and my sister.
You went on quote-unquote field trips where they would just take you bowling.
Yeah, they took us bowling. They took us to laser tag. They took us to the pool. I remember going to the pools and people would scrounge to have like enough, like 25 cents to get those giant pixie sticks.
Yeah.
Like they were too heavy. Nobody needed that much sugar. Mm-hmm. And then they would consume way too much sugar and then go swimming and then.
Yeah, they were super long. And then once you were done with it, that would be like the slide that would go down because it was that big of a tube. You know? So let's transition a little bit into our next segment, which it's just tough with you because you have a very different kind of childhood because your pop culture references are like Rugrats and Gettysburg. So
why are you so
so it's just like I don't know what to do.
You're really into Gettysburg. No, okay, let me try to
I'm completely joking around with you, by the way.
I can scrounge my brain for all of the youthful references. Yeah, in my stand-up I do no pop culture references whatsoever because
that's okay.
But yeah, I'm cool with it.
When we're on the same show together, it balances because I do all the pop culture references.
Yeah, I watched a lot of Friends and Seinfeld.
Yeah.
So those were my shows. I remember watching Sex and the City pretty young too.
Yeah.
And it actually got some pretty good advice that I've used whole life.
Well, really? What is that?
I remember there was an episode where one of the friends, she had realized she had never gotten tested for STDs, mm-hmm. and she was so scared by the whole experience. And then because of that, I think I'm a more conscious and aware person, and better at basically. I'm much better at talking about sex than a lot of other people because of that show, particularly making sure any partners have been tested.
Okay.
This is really not childlike.
No, it actually is because it rolls back around to how in the beginning you were all about tests and now you're really into this one.
Okay.
So
I'm also into just living life.
You have a song about STD testing? And
no, I don't. But I will say I grew up Unitarian Universalist. I don't know if you're familiar.
It sounds familiar. Please.
It's
elaborate.
like it's a non-denominational faith, and it's sort of I could like to call it agnostic plus. It's a lot of moral foundations without the dogma. Yeah. And when I was in high school, they had this program. It's called Our Whole Lives. Mm-hmm. It was basically like a sex education / relationship education class, and I found it super useful because at least public schools here in Florida don't teach you very much. And I remember they even talked to us about relationships, and they would present a scenario where someone was in a bad situation or things went awry, and just talking through who was to blame or who had the most responsibility in a situation, and even just talking about that at a young age, recognizing how complicated situations around relationships and sex are. I think it was very helpful to have that.
That is very
knowledge.
Helpful. To kind of talk in a serious way about that. I don't know how I would feel about my own children, but it's definitely something where, like, growing up, going to Christian schools and things like that, where it was like, Timmy had a girlfriend named Becky, and one time they touched each other. Now they're both dead. And, like, that was every story. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So it's just like, it would scare you.
Mm-hmm.
It would scare you away from, like, relationships and so much so that, like, and I'm not even trying to be funny, but, like, it got to a point where I was just scared to be with the opposite sex. Mm. You know what I mean? And I was, like, scared to, like, even talk to people, like, you know, or have, like, a normal relationship, much less anything else.
Yeah.
You know, I think that that's just so unhealthy. I guess it's meant with the best intentions, but it's just one of those things where it becomes an extreme.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do. My other career background is in policy, economic policy, and there a lot of it is like what your intentions are one thing, but the effects of the policies and the programs you implement are another. And I think people are so committed to so oftentimes so committed to teaching a certain message that they don't follow through with the long-term implications of them.
Yeah.
So.
And not only that, like, it's just something where I guess maybe it's like, I don't want you to turn up like me, or like, I don't know what it is. You know, it's just something like along those lines. And then you just end up, at least in my case, you end up becoming this like weird mutant thing that's like not them, but also like the worst of the good. You know what I mean? Where it's just like he's like too bubbled and too crystal clean.
You know what I did in high school to break out of the crystal clean?
Well,
My friends
you got
and
dirty?
We were my friends and I, oh my goodness, we were so nerdy, and we were so
Oh, no.
We didn't do anything wild. What we did was there was a Hooters near us that
Of course there was. They were always next to a church.
once a week there they had a biker night where all these motorcycle, like Harley Davidson people would come dressed in all black. So when we were in high school, we dressed in all black a couple of times and would go to Hooters and just hang out in that biker space. We didn't,
my gosh.
That was the extent of it. And I remember one time when we were leaving, my friend didn't bring a change. She just left her house in the clothing she was going to wear instead of changing like the rest of us did.
Right.
Once we were out.
Yeah, so you wouldn't get
And
caught.
her sister, we weren't even that, I don't know. We were just maybe slightly more dolled up than normal.
Yeah.
But her sister called her out and she said, "You're going somewhere." We almost got busted one time. We didn't get busted. But that felt so rebellious.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I just wanted, that was how wild I was then.
My rebellion was so tame, like compared to so many people, you know, like that's like relatively tame to where even a normal person would be like, oh, that's pretty tame. My rebellion was like at maybe 20 years old. I was like, you know what? I think I'm finally going to watch Harry Potter.
Wow.
That was my rebellion. You know?
Because there was witchcraft and wizardry?
I wasn't allowed to watch any of that stuff. And it's just like, to me, if you truly believe in God and all that stuff, doesn't it just mean that you're being soft by being like, no, I can't watch something that tampers with my faith? Because the moment I watch something that tampers with my faith, I'm going to start believing it. Like, sorry, dude, you're soft in whatever it is that you believe.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like, I watch The Matrix and I don't ever feel like picking up a gun and shooting someone.
I'm glad.
You know what I mean? I watch it because it's entertaining.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't tamper with my beliefs on guns and violence and things like that. I just watch it because it's fun.
You can appreciate fiction.
Of course.
Regardless of your religious foundation.
I don't think a lot of Christians can. That's what I'm saying.
It's some internal doubt about whether their beliefs are fiction.
Yeah, and like that's just the thing that bothers me, you know? I mean, granted, there's plenty of people that believe in God that agree with what I'm saying right now.
Yeah. My general philosophy is, you know, if someone doesn't want to watch something, like, live and let live. But if you were deprived of the wonders of Harry Potter, then that's...
I was deprived of a lot of things.
You're so informed now, it's surprising.
Yeah,
Did you catch up after the fact?
I think so. I think when I hit college, I got really into pop culture. I got really into pop culture a little bit during high school because I would like sneak things around every now and again. I'm trying to think of like some other things because I even remember I would like sneak watching stand-up in high school and things like that.
I snuck watching a book. Reading a book. Wow.
Okay. I mean, technically you do watch it.
I was reading a book. I remember I got this book from my grandma, and I was supposed to go to sleep at like 10 or 11, and I took a small flashlight, tied a string to it, put a push pin in my ceiling so that the flashlight would go right over the book. Wow. So I could read the book all night, and if my mom or dad looked under my door, it would look like it was dark in there.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's really, really crazy.
I'm a rebel.
I love it. That's awesome. I don't know if I did anything like that. I definitely remember this. Like in college, I got really into like bands that I couldn't listen to that are like well-known classic rock bands. Like in college, I discovered Queen. And like a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? Like, how do you not know? It's like, yeah, I mean, I knew like We Are the Champions and We Will Rock You because like I've seen the Mighty Ducks, you know, like I've seen movies that play songs like that, but I just didn't know Queen, like that well. I didn't know Journey. Like I knew they had songs that were in movies. And in fact, I actually talk about it on stage every now and again. But when I was a kid, there was this whole deal with like, oh, if you get a record, like a certain record, and you play it backwards, it would say like
the devil.
It would say like I worship Satan or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the joke that I say on stage, which is true, if you play Stairway to Heaven backwards, it's an escalator to hell. Like that's the joke that I would say on stage. And then I found out later on, like I did research on Led Zeppelin because I ended up being a huge fan. I ended up loving their stuff. Yeah. And then I did some research because I was just like, I like these guys. And it turns out they're really big Lord of the Rings nerds.
Okay.
And they loved Lord of the Rings. So a lot of their songs are about Lord of the Rings. So the joke that I say on stage is like, little do they know that if they played it forward, it's kind of a Christian song.
Yeah. That's funny.
Because Lord of the Rings is a Christian book.
That's funny. Were you only what music were you allowed to listen to?
Christian music.
That's it?
Pretty much.
That's fascinating. Yeah, my parents were very liberal in what I could do.
Yeah.
As long as I didn't hurt or maim anything, it was fair game.
Every now and again, I would get away with like getting CDs that were, as the Christians would call it, that were secular CDs, but it was because the band name sounded Christian.
Wow.
For example, Newfound Glory, like I would be like,
yeah, that sounds like faith. Yeah, that sounds.
It's like, oh, it's
Backstreet Boys finding salvation in the back streets.
In the back streets, yeah. It's because. Yeah.
In sync with the Lord.
Yeah, they're in sync with the Lord. Yeah, they're 98 degrees. It's because they're red hot with faith for God.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can go on forever.
Britney Spears, the daggers that put Jesus on the cross. That's the spears they're referring to.
No, they're referring to the
Britney
spear
Spears.
that the Roman used to check if Jesus was actually dead.
Oh, wow. You have a lot more information than I do.
That's the spear that they're talking about.
Wow.
Christina Aguilera is what they would shout whenever.
They would actually play Christina Aguilera music at the Last Supper. That was what was in the
How
system.
funny would that be if they're just like eating and you just hear like, when will my revelation show?
That sounds pretty nice, actually.
Thank you very much. By the way, that was Christina Aguilera. Thank you so much for coming, Christina. That was great. That was that song she sang from Mulan.
That's so funny.
You remember that movie?
Oh, I do. I like Disney movies a lot. I watched them.
They had them at the library?
Okay. Yes, they did. Also at Blockbuster. Blockbuster existed too.
Yeah, but the Blockbuster isn't the library.
I didn't live in a cave.
I know you didn't live in a cave, but I'm just saying, like, there's just certain things. I just thought, a lot of everything you got was from the library, and that's okay because I know they had a DVD section. I know they had things.
I think you need to go to the library and
No,
see.
I've been to the library. I know they have like a vast
Christian section.
Yeah, they have a vast video option of all the different languages of Passion of the Christ and God's Not Dead 1 and 2.
Oh my gosh. I did want to tell you one story I had thought of when I was thinking about.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you did this in private school, but when I was younger, particularly elementary school, we had to sell things to raise money for the school. So we sold wrapping paper. We did that. We sold other things in a brochure, but there were prizes if you were a top seller. And one of the top prizes for my elementary school, which I never got and I was so bummed about, was you got to take a limo ride meal ride. So you'd leave school for lunch, you'd take a limo, and then you'd have lunch at McDonald's.
That is such a Home Alone 2 way of a prize.
People got it, and I never sold enough wrapping paper.
Wow.
To get it, but I didn't know if private school had things like that.
Yeah, we sold wrapping paper, we sold sweatshirts, we sold yearbooks. There was a thing that we also did where it would raise money for our class trip as well, and it was called Snack Break. And it was like school had like an intermission around like 10 or 11. And everyone would go downstairs and we would all sell bagels and donuts and Gatorades and things like that. So that's how we would make money for like senior trips. And we also did like a senior camp in the very beginning, which I have some stories. And I think episode 1, I talked about senior camp and like all the things that I did. I pranked some kid. It was the first week of school. I pranked this kid so bad that he never came back.
Oh
So
my God.
it was pretty bad. Oh, we did like a Christmas store thing. And what was great was like, you know, everything was like from $1 to $5, and they were like little knickknacks that you can put in people's stocking.
Oh, that's
and
cute.
so we would sell it to all the people as like, oh, you can like fill up your stocking for your parents or something, and that's how we would make money. So, but one of the highest selling thing was a fart bomb. Do you remember those?
Yeah, I do.
Basically, it was like this little aluminum bag, and you would pop it, and then it would expand, and then it would blow up, and when it blew up, it smelled like rotten eggs. It was awful. However, if you got a couple of them and threw them at the ceiling vent in front of the school, or on the roof of the school, it was hilarious.
Wow. Sounds like you did a lot of sales in high school.
It wasn't really that. To be completely honest, it actually wasn't that I was all about it. It was a requirement for us to do it.
Yeah.
It was a requirement.
The Lord's work.
Kind of. Basically, the whole thing was like, look, we know that it sucks to have to stay after school for a couple of hours or whatever, but if you do these things and you sell, like, they basically did the math to where it was like, if you do your sales, even if you do a crappy job, you're going to be able to go on the senior trip for free. So but if you did really well, then you would go on the senior trip plus have spending money.
Yeah.
And we went to like New York, and you know, we went on a really good senior trip.
It was really expensive when I was in band in high school, and they had we could sell candy, boxes of chocolate, like Hershey's boxes. There's 52 bars.
Yeah, I did that.
You could sell each of them for $1. I sold thousands of dollars worth of candy.
That's crazy.
So much so that in my freshman year of high school, the other freshmen at lunch would yell to me, "Candy girl," when they wanted candy.
Oh, wow.
I would go through the portables and the different things. And I ended up switching schools my sophomore year, so I got a new start, and I was no longer known as Candy Girl, which was nice.
Wow. That's crazy. I do remember selling chocolate as well, but I was like so lazy about it. My mom was a teacher at the school. She didn't teach high school. She taught second grade. And so basically I would just give her all of my stuff. Like I would give her my chocolates. I would give her the catalogs for people to buy, like all the knickknacks or whatever. And then I would just like collect the order forms from all of the parents or whatever. So like I basically never did any of the work unless it was like for snack break or the after school, like selling pizza or like whatever it is that we were doing. The car washes, you know, anything like that.
I was good at selling because I was a Girl Scout.
Yeah. Well,
They train you.
Yeah, they train you.
They even told us, you don't ask, would you like to buy Girl Scout cookies? You have to ask, how many boxes of Girl Scout cookies would you like to buy? So that the default answer is at least 30.
Well, first of all, that's a great marketing trick. And second of all, Girl Scout cookies are so good that it takes a lot of willpower for somebody to say no thank you.
Yeah.
You know, because they're just that good.
Do you have a cookie of choice?
A Girl Scout cookie of choice? Thin Mints.
Oh, yeah.
Thin Mints from the fridge. I like them cold.
My
They're very
family
good.
likes them frozen. Have you tried
Yeah,
that?
that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like cold chocolate is really good. It sounds really strange if you've never had it, but it's very, very good. It's a really popular thing in Europe, apparently. People from Europe love it.
It's like fondue, but different.
Yeah. It's like bread, except it's chocolate, and it's not bread at all. So going back to different things from childhood, did you have a specific cereal that you liked eating?
I liked Cinnamon Toast Crunch a
Yeah.
lot.
Do you still like it?
I haven't eaten it. I actually now I don't like sweet things in the morning anymore.
Yeah.
So if I have cereal, it's usually in the evening as a snack.
How funny is that like when you're a kid, you want that stuff in the morning, but when you're an adult, it's just like so much better before you go to bed.
And sort of like what you were saying, the one thing my parents were sort of restricted were probably sometimes like things like cereal. So I couldn't have Reese's Puffs, those cereals. So when my friends would have them at their house, I would have like 3 bowls of Reese's Puffs.
Absolutely.
Those are so good.
Yeah, that is really good. Do you remember any of the weird commercials and how they would treat the cereal like it was a drug?
I remember, yeah. So even Cinnamon Toast Crunch, the taste you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luis Diaz, he was a guest a couple of people ago.
Yeah.
And he was talking about it, and he was like talking about how frustrating it was to watch how these scientists whose job it was to see things could be like, we can't see anything. And then all these kids are like, look, you moron. It's a taste you could see.
Yeah, that's very much like this poor rabbit, Trickster for Kids.
Yeah.
Always felt bad for that rabbit.
Did you ever see the
Just
Apple
give
Jacks
the rabbit
commercials?
some tricks.
Yeah, that's true too.
I remember the Apple. I jog my memory. I'm having a hard time.
Apple Jacks. So in the Apple Jacks commercials, there was an animated apple and an animated cinnamon stick, and they get into a fight. They get super mad at each other, and then they charge each other. They're like, ah, and then they just like explode, and their like body, their like blood is like.
Is the
little crumbles, the little pieces of whatever it is that's on the Apple Jacks.
Wow.
I mean, goodness, there's like so many weird commercials for all this stuff. But anyway, I wanted to talk about that because our next bit is about cereal. So every episode I like to review a new box of cereal.
Yeah, cool.
I like to get cereal that pertains to my guest in some way, shape, or form. Okay. So
did you go to the library?
I did, and Cheryl says hi, and so Elaine, I spoke to my sponsors over at Funko, and by sponsor I mean I love them and I buy all their products, and by spoke to I mean I tweeted them repeatedly and they didn't get back to me. So what I got for you,
I'm dying,
Elaine Golden, is Funko brand Pac-Man cereal.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. It's the tasty treat that's fun to eat. And they're little yellow O's. And when you take a little bite of it, it looks like Pac-Man. Oh. You know? Because shapes.
I like that they make you take the bite to create the shape.
You definitely don't have to.
Yeah, I will.
I honestly just said that because I just wanted to make a joke. So it would be fun for us to just review this cereal.
Yeah.
But what would be more fun is for you to review this cereal as Pac-Man or a Pac-Man character.
Okay,
so
great.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to play some Pac-Man music, and whenever you're ready, you can be one of the characters.
Oh, yeah. Tastes like I just ate a strawberry that makes me invisible to ghosts. Oh no, I finished the pieces and the ghosts are gonna get me. The tanginess of it is like escaping death by going through the one side wall and popping out another.
That's great.
What? This is so good. It tastes like that time I lost my life, but then miraculously came back to life.
That's great. Pac-Man, ladies and gentlemen. I had no idea when I picked that music that it was just going to be a guy playing Pac-Man. But to transition into more recently, let's talk about stand-up.
Yeah.
When did you start?
I started just about 2 years ago.
What was it that inspired you? Was it a specific comic, or was it just like you just wanted to perform and that seemed to be like the thing that called to you?
Yeah, I had always wanted to try stand-up, and then a mean guy who I didn't think was very funny told me he was doing stand-up, and I was like, well, if he's doing it, I could do it.
Yeah.
So I just started.
It definitely wasn't me, by the way.
No, I don't even know if this person does stand-up anymore.
Probably not.
I don't think so. I've never seen them perform, but since I hadn't, yeah. So I haven't seen them perform. But my the catapult that got me to really do it was really it was possibly spite.
Okay.
But I mean, I'd always wanted to perform, and I was I think what I realized and what I've learned, like even as I've been doing it this past few years, is that stand-up's really hard, especially the first 6 months.
Of course.
So if you want to give it a try, you should just go for it, because you're not going to be great your first 6 months. And for me, I just sort of believed before I started that everybody that was doing it was really great, or had developed already some sort of skill set.
Sure.
So for me, just this one really vivid example of someone who I don't know, as a sort of a foil in my journey. I felt like
as you're talking about this person, you're being so vague that it's scaring me into thinking that it's possibly me. And I don't, and I know it's not true.
No,
because it can't be.
We didn't
I've never
meet
said
before
anything.
I started. Yeah.
Also, we never met before you started. Also, I've only said good things about your stand-up, so I don't know why it would be me.
I think it's. I don't know.
It's the narcissism and the depression together.
Yeah,
now.
It's a gnarly combination. No. And I'd always wanted to do it. And part of it was when I was in grad school, I had to take some time off for family and health reasons.
Yeah.
So I was back in Florida for almost 8 months. And after getting everything in order, and when I was about to go back to school, I still had a couple months before I would go back and start school, and I had that time and I had the space, and I said, okay, I'm going to write a set, I'm going to go do it. And then I performed, and it was fine enough. I enjoyed being on stage. It was a pretty big open mic that I did for my first one down here, with an actual stage that's high up off the ground, and a crowd of 40-50 people. So I enjoyed the thrill of it. Honestly, I think I don't do drugs. So for me, stand up, the sort of adrenaline rush you get from it is very much akin to, it's definitely a high.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. And you started here.
I did.
And then you went over to
New Jersey.
And then you started doing stuff over there as well?
Yeah, I started here. I only performed a couple times here before I went back to school. And I was in New Jersey for about maybe 6 or 7 months. And then I had 2 months off before I finished my master's degree. So I went to Chicago for 2 months. Mm-hmm. And that was so helpful. I was about 6-7 months in when I showed up to Chicago for 2 months, and just seeing so many different comics perform, and people who'd been doing it for decades, and just seeing them at that level really, it really motivated me to step up my game.
Yeah, of course. It's not necessarily that it's going to go bad, because, like, for example, my first set that I ever did went pretty well, but it was later on watching, and it wasn't even that I was bombing. Like, I was doing fine, but it was just like, in my own head, I was just seeing that people were better than me. And I was like, in my own head, I was like, I either need to get better or get out. Nobody was telling me that, but that's just what I was thinking to myself. And it became a motivator. What I'm trying to say is that moment is going to happen to everyone in stand-up. Yeah. And that is what separates you from being a stand-up comedian and someone who's done an open mic a couple of times.
Yeah. I think I'm always trying to find ways to improve my craft and try to push myself on stage. In even just the types of jokes I tell, I spend some time. I don't do a lot of one-liners, but I spend some time trying to write one-liners just to work them into my set, or just have them as something in my toolkit. And now I've got a couple, but now it's just sort of, I view it sort of as skill development, so that I have all these tools when I want to create a certain type of set.
Of course.
So
that's always a good thing to have in your tool belt, for sure. Do you have any stories about shows or open mics, like weird moments that you've had?
I've been running a talk show. It's more improv comedy talk show. It's about an hour long.
Yeah.
an hour-long show down in Miami called Digging Deeper. And I started a segment to open the show there that it's sort of... I've always been I sort of in line with your being multidimensional.
Yeah.
I love writing and performing, but I also just like being goofy on stage.
Of course.
So I've started opening the show where it's a beach themed show, you know, the setup, beach umbrellas, boogie boards, towels and whatnot. So I started this segment where I come out in the beginning in a bathing suit, and I guess it's it's not sexy, but I guess I would say the dancing is akin to a reverse striptease, where I then put on my show thing from the bathing suit, where I put on my suit jacket and my jeans, and I get all ready for the show. And then at one point, I like pump myself up to a mirror to like getting ready, but the audience is right there just watching it all happen. So I would say I've really part of before I ever started doing stand-up and performing in general, I've always been sort of a person to get the party started. Sure. And it was really nice for me in a show format to find a way to incorporate one of the quirkier aspects of my personality,
of course, into
a little bit to open up the show.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed that a lot. And I sort of like that improv style format where it gives a little more flexibility to do somewhat more alternative type comedy.
Of course. And then I've had the privilege of doing your show a couple of times.
Yeah.
And what's been really fun about that show is that neither you nor I know what's happening.
Yeah.
And we're kind of finding out together, and that's kind of what makes it fun, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like
sometimes
life.
Yeah, and sometimes it means that we have real moments on stage, or we make each other laugh, or, you know, like things like that. I remember at one point, I can't remember exactly what it was, but you said, you asked me some sort of a question, and I was playing this character that I love playing. He's a 5-year-old named Caleb, and he has a YouTube channel, and I was playing that character, and you asked me something. You were like, if you could have anything. Was it if you could have anything in an elevator or something like that?
I can't remember the question.
It was like something like, if you could have anything in an elevator, what would you have? And as a 5-year-old, I answered a toilet, and it just like it broke both of us down. Yeah. I remember us both laughing like real people for a second, because we had this realization of like, man, that would really make life a lot easier if there was a toilet, you know.
If you were stuck in an elevator.
If you were stuck in an elevator, it would be awesome if there was a toilet in there, you know. And we just both started laughing at that. That's like some of the more fun things that happen at your show. I don't know if you've had it with everyone, but there's always, at least the ones that I've seen, there's always these moments where there are these real life moments where we like look at each other and we're like, man, this is crazy that anyone is even watching this. You know, this is really funny.
And then we performed together at SuperCon this past weekend.
Yeah, we did.
And that was wild for me. I'd never performed at a con before.
Yeah. How did it feel?
It was really nice. I think the audience was it was different than a regular stand-up show. Pretty brightly lit room, sort of akin to a conference and like a meeting space.
Yeah. And
they were so sweet. So I did one joke where I do a little turn, and when I turn around, people wooed, and and then it was just I think what I like and what I've learned from improv that I bring into my stand up is trying to focus on my performance as a relationship with the audience.
Yeah.
So making sure that connection is really there, and I think that's what I think. My set changed so much on stage from what I had planned to do based on their reactions, and I'm trying to get more comfortable where I almost like have all my bits in my mind, and I have a general order, but being a lot more malleable with the audience, and having that, being able to just mentally skip and move bits for the flow of the space. And I like that. It's almost like I view stand-up as a puzzle in its own right, and then a puzzle with the audience I'm working with, and trying to... Sometimes the iterations, the different orderings I come up with in a show end up being how I do it. I plan to do it in the future because it's just worked so well, and it was more natural than I had even considered. So I loved SuperCon. They were so sweet, I love that connection with the audience, and that even if it's not the best set in the world, if you could see people are really enjoying it, I mean, it can be the best set in the world. I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
But it's really, I think those are the moments. That was one of the nicest shows that I've enjoyed in a good while.
Yeah, you can definitely, the thing about that show, you know, first off, you were there on Saturday, the last night, which was by far the best show that we had all weekend. I was lucky enough to do all the shows. And it was weird because, you know, when you came in, you were like, what should I expect? And I was like, I honestly just don't know how to describe this to you.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, it's everything you've never experienced in your life all in one thing, you know, where it's like, even on Saturday, you actually had more of an advantage because there weren't conference tables in front of you.
Yeah.
On Thursday and Friday, we had conference tables with chairs at like a regular panel at a Comic-Con would have, with actors being like, I'll take the next question, and this is what it was like for me to work on Adventure Time, or whatever it was, you know? So we would perform behind those tables. So it was like the weirdest thing. You would perform in front of an empty crowd that wasn't facing you, and then a crowd that was facing you.
Yeah.
It was super weird.
Did anyone get on top of the table for the earlier shows?
Lisa got on top of the table for the first show, and she like laid down on the table and did some of her jokes like that as well.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah. So there was that. And it was fine. I mean, we made jokes about it, and it was fine. And it's also just strange because like the ceilings are super high. So and also like it's a long room as well. So it would take like half of a second for all of the sound to reach the end of the room. So the laughs were delayed.
Yeah.
And that was really weird to get used to. At least your first time, it's kind of weird to get used to. I got used to it by that Saturday. I was like, oh, I know how to do this now, you know. And also something that I learned doing it that many times was the looser I was, the more fun they were having.
Yeah.
You know, so it was just like they wanted me to make fun of their costumes. Mm-hmm. You know, like they wanted me to go off into the crowd and like, you know, and say something, you know, like, for example, you weren't there, but there was a show where the day before, there was a guy that he was dressed in like a shirt with a floral pattern and, you know, jeans and he had a hat on. He wasn't cosplaying. He just looked like a guy, you know, but however, everyone else was cosplaying. So the joke of that thing that I made before I even started my set, I was like, I made jokes about how that guy looked like the guy from Jurassic Park. And like everyone was laughing because they were just like, out of all the people, like there's literally someone dressed as Slender Man with stilts on. Wow. You know, like there's like all these kinds of things, and you're going off into the guy that looks like a normal guy, you know? And so like I made fun of that, and then it got this huge laugh because I was like, you know, out of all the people in this room, you look like the guy that would actually sell dinosaurs to the government. And then he just, the room just went insane, you know? So that was way more fun, you know? And that's also another thing for me is like crowd work really scares me. It terrifies me. I hate going into the crowd because of two reasons. One, because I'm scared that they're going to retaliate and they're not going to like whatever it is that I'm joking about. And two, that I'm going to hurt someone's feelings, and that's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah. For me, part of the reason I started doing improv about a year ago was I had a hard time with crowd work in terms of feeling like I was losing control of the situation.
Yeah.
And it very much, as I've worked on it, it's sort of, if you can manage the crowd and you can interact with them in a way that is helpful and to your performance, is actually more control over the situation because you're directly engaging with people. Richie Leese, a comedian from, he splits his time between here in Florida and LA. Mm-hmm. He once mentioned something. You can do crowd work where you're not mean to anyone in the audience, and it can be more conversational than attacking. Yeah. And I found that like I had always viewed a lot of crowd work as very antagonistic with a crowd, and hadn't seen it done a lot where it was pretty positive. And it even took me a while to not default to being defensive when interacting with people, but I found that a pretty good framework of trying to approach situations with audience members from a place of curiosity, as opposed to making them the butt of a joke. Yeah. Or you can use their interactions to make yourself the butt of the joke. You know, there's just lots of different ways to do it, but I found that framework helpful for me.
Yeah, it just for me it just depends on the situation, and usually I'm pretty good at reading a room. And I'm pretty good at being like, these people aren't going to find me making a joke about this funny. But I felt really comfortable at SuperCon making fun of the crowd. You know, and also because I wasn't making fun of them.
Also,
I was
they're
just
your
like,
people.
Yeah, like I wasn't making fun of them. I was just like, you know, nothing.
Poking fun.
This is another thing for me. Nothing is funnier to me than something that is a little wrong. For example, South Park has a character named Butters. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why I think Butters is so funny is because he reminds me a lot of myself. And it's because 95% of everything he says is predicated on complete innocence. And having no idea that what he's saying is messed up or wrong.
Yeah, that's nice.
You know what I mean? And nothing to me is funnier than that. Is just somebody that just doesn't know any better. You know what I mean? And that's why I love making jokes like that, where it's like the first joke I will make is in a room full of people dressed up to the nines is a guy that is just wearing a freaking American Eagle t-shirt and just being like, it's the guy from Jurassic Park. You know what I mean? And the room is just like, how funny is that he's making fun of literally the only guy that looks normal. That room was super fun, for sure. It was super fun.
I've been working on a bit where I talk about, as a white woman, sometimes cops can be passive aggressive to me. Mm-hmm. And in that one, I think a lot of the humor tries to rest in like the framing of I'm subtly unaware of other perspectives, but are reflecting it. Like it's sort of, I don't know. That one's like, in that one, it's very much like both a lack of awareness and both the audience knows I'm actually aware.
Of course.
Of that effect. I won't get into the bit. It's still a pretty new one, but
yeah.
But that one I like because of like the perceived innocence of it when I'm really mad at a cop for not helping me find my hot pink backpack.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's super funny to me. Stuff like that is great.
I did like SuperCon. It's hard in South Florida in particular to find to perform in larger spaces. The few like we just had the Improv open up in Doral, so that's pretty good. West Palm has an Improv. The one in Fort Lauderdale's not open right now. And then once a month on Fridays down in Miami, there's Speak Fridays, and that was actually the first place I performed for like a 150 plus audience.
Yeah.
So. It was sort of like I was glad I did that because then when I got to the SuperCon show, knowing that lag would be there is a little helpful. But we don't really have that many. We don't have many venues to perform for large crowds. Which I'm also leaving pretty soon.
Yeah, I know. You're leaving to Chicago.
Yeah, I'm headed to Chicago.
Yeah. And so are you, I mean, obviously you're planning on still doing stand-up and things like that.
Yeah, I'll do stand-up. It's like my second job. I'll have a full-time job as well. Yeah. But my nights will be for comedy. And that's the goal.
That's awesome. So where can people find you, Elaine?
They can find me on social media at The Golden Elaine, Instagram and Facebook. I have a page on both. And they can add me. I'll be in Chicago in a couple weeks and popping back in Florida in the meantime. That's where I'll be. Catch me on the road. You can find me on Instagram at Mike Valdes, on Twitter
at I am Mike Valdes. You can go to whoismikevaldes.com to find out the answer to that question. And that is it. This has been an episode, Elaine.
This has been fun.
So subscribe to Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes on anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends. Let's grow this family as big as we possibly can. Thank you so much for listening. You're amazing. Don't forget that. Bye, besties.